A blow for President Trump tonight, with part of that blue wall building back for Joe Biden in Michigan and apparently Wisconsin. Now, the president's biggest battlegrounds, the courtrooms in the states that will decide the presidential race. His campaign threatening a recount in Wisconsin and filing new lawsuits in Michigan and Pennsylvania to stop ballot counting. Despite what the president's son now says,
we're going to win Pennsylvania, but they're trying to cheat us out of it because they know it's their only path to victory.
There's no evidence of fraud in states that have not been called. The president's legal battle beginning as his path to victory is narrowing, even as he tries to prematurely claim states he'd like to win, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, all races too early to call, with many ballots yet to be tallied. Same goes for Arizona. His campaign confident there anyway. And while his advisors insist that outstanding vote could turn the tide, the president insists incorrectly there's something wrong with it. Tweeting, they are finding Biden votes all over the place with, quote, surprise ballot dumps leading to his support magically disappearing. To be clear, votes are not being found or surprisingly dumped or disappearing. They're being counted legally and legitimately. But it's part of the president's misinformation campaign intended to introduce uncertainty in a process that so far has unfolded as expected. Warnings now from social media companies slapping labels on his tweets, and warnings even from the president's own allies about his false claim of victory overnight.
A very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we won't stand for it. This is a major fraud in our nation. Frankly, we did win this election.
None of that was true when the president said it, and it's not true now.
I was very distressed by what I heard the president say.
It's a bad strategic decision. It's a bad political decision.
Still, President Trump's election day showing stronger than many polls predicted as he overperformed with Black and Latino voters. Overall, hardly the repudiation of Trumpism his critics had hoped for. The president's hold on his own party undeniable, even with his hold on the White House uncertain.
And Hallie, one of the takeaways from all this is the intense interest in this presidential race and the turnouts, the people who stood in line to vote.
Yeah, and listen, Lester, we're now getting a sense of just how big that turnout was. Our NBC News projections suggest it is the highest voter turnout rate in more than a century. We're talking an estimated 160+ million people casting ballots overall. Now, the Trump campaign had really been focusing on turnout. They had that get out the vote operation that kept going even during the pandemic, those rallies they kept holding, looking to register more and more voters who attended. And while advisors tonight say they do still think there's a narrow path to a win, it's the Biden campaign sitting in a more comfortable position. And Lester, if that holds, President Trump would become the first incumbent president to lose re-election in nearly 3 decades.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.